that's the crux of it all. If we turn up and we're always being ourselves, then we can make stronger connections and relationships with our people, our teams, our peers, our suppliers, our clients, and all of that. It's just about human relationship.
Hello and welcome to No Graft, No Glory podcast, episode 2. So popular we came back after the first one. Today I'm joined by, I suppose, a really good new friend of mine who I've got to know over the last couple of months, Lee Houghton, co-founder of the amazing business Get Knowledge, which we're going to learn hopefully a little bit about that today. And also national, not just local, but national Coach of the Year 2025. Hey, what a title. How are you, Lee?
Yeah, amazing. Honestly, thank you so much. Firstly, for the opportunity to chat to you today. And then just for that introduction, it's an absolute pleasure to be with you today, Scott. And outside of this podcast, I've proper enjoyed just spending time with you, learning from you, and just chewing the fat with you. So thank you for everything.
Oh, hey, do you know what? Absolutely amazing. That's what I thought, right? So what I wanted this podcast to be, it's just a chat, really. You know what I mean? Get rid of all the fluff. There's loads of business podcasts out, loads of them, right? You know yourself, you've done a bit of a different one for a lot longer than I have, and that, I think that's going to be relaunching soon. Is that right?
It is indeed, yeah.
So get me on, and if I'm not, I'll be fuming. So get me on as a guest, but I want to do a bit different. So it's just going to be a proper chat, Lee, just around how you've got to where you've got today over the 7-year journey from when you were in employment to having a really successful business, and obviously, all joking aside, what a great thing to be recognised for the great work that you're doing in coaching. So talk to me a little bit about how it all started. Then, how did your entrepreneurial journey start?
Yeah, no, thank you, Scott. And so, how did it start? Well, it started about 20 years ago when I fell in love with business improvement, leadership coaching, and just helping people enjoy their role a little bit more, because they realise that actually it was within their gift to make it better if they were provided the space, because those who were closest to the work, they know most about it and all of that stuff. So I fell in love with it about 20 years ago, and it created a feeling inside me. And I'm going to just go back a few more years than 20. Like, I used to DJ, and when I played a song, and you saw people running, dashing, walking slowly to the dance floor with a smile on their face, and then bouncing up and down and just enjoying themselves. And that gave me a feeling inside, like going, I'm playing a tiny part in the enjoyment of their night. And like I said, that created such an intense feeling inside, and I loved doing that. And the only other time I felt that feeling is doing what I do. 20 years ago is when it started, when I recognised that, like, the penny drop moment in people's minds, when they realise that actually the things that they've been putting up with, actually, if we create an environment for a conversation to occur, that actually we can overcome these things as well. And that gives me, and it continues to give me, the exact same feeling. So it started 20 years ago.
Well, wait, you can't drop a bombshell like that on me about telling me you were a DJ. Right. So was this like old school 80s DJ, or was this house DJ? Come on, what type of music were you banging out?
Yeah, parties and pubs. Like, so I did parties, like 18th, 21st, 30th. So it was quite funny because my dad DJ'd as well. So my dad, hero, still is. And my dad DJ'd, but my dad did like golden weddings and upwards, and I did anything up to a 30th or a 40th and down. And so we separated it in that way. So it was parties and pubs. I did. In fact, just between me and you. Because there were not many parties on a Friday, I moved into pubs and stuff, and I started working in Yates's in Chorley. It wasn't called Yates's, but it was the old Yates's. And then I moved to Bolton. And when I moved to the Bolton Yates's, the manager said to me, she went, "Nobody knows you in Bolton, Lee, so we're gonna create like a little bit of a gimmick and stuff." And the Saturday night DJ was called Richard Martin. And it was like, "Come live in La Vida Loca" with DJ Ricky Martin on a Saturday. And at the time, this entrepreneurial spirit in me, like I was like all in on parties and stuff. And I bought some bouncy castles. This is another story, but not for this pod. But like, I bought some bouncy castles, and when I bought my bouncy castles, I bought him with a van, and the van was like a bright yellow van with a picture of a monkey on the side. And it was called Funky Monkey Inflatables. And so my brain, for some crazy reason, connected the dots between when I started DJing at Yates's in Bolton and I just bought the Funky Monkey Inflatables van. I could be DJ Funky Monkey. And I thought, in my head, I could have flyers on the side of the thing for me inflatables. I could dress as a monkey. So I imported an oversized monkey outfit from China for 70 quid. And so for 18 months, I was DJ Funky Monkey in Yates's in Bolton. And because I DJ'd, like, I could balloon model as well. So not strategically place models on my body and walk up and down a catwalk. I mean, like, make stuff out of balloons.
Yeah.
And so I was making male and female teddies. I was making also like different things, swords and all of that stuff. So there was an oversized monkey playing music in Yates's for 18 months. And it never intended to be 18 months. But what I said to the manager, I said that the first Friday that nobody asks me for a photograph, I will stop wearing the monkey suit the following week. 18 months it lasted. 18 months.
Has anything been more northern or more Bolton Charlie than Funky Monkey? Yeah. And having a bounty cat, I absolutely love it. But sorry to interrupt you, because I think now, hopefully I get some listeners to this, and there'll be people that go, no way, it's Funky Monkey? Yeah, well, it sounds like funnier in a North East accent, doesn't it? That's it, my youth, my misspent youth in Yates's Bolton is all coming back together. But I suppose, interestingly, to get us back on track, though, about that entrepreneurial spirit and those type of things. So you found out that you just, whether it was the DJ and whether it was being work, just really having that passion for helping people, bringing that to life, making sure that you could give them the best opportunity to have their best night, best day in work, whatever those things are, and it just stayed within you.
Yeah, absolutely. It is that feeling. And it's just the most amazing feeling. Like when people just realize that what they've been putting up with no longer needs to exist. And just if you ask a few questions, create a little bit of space, give them a bit of time, then amazing things can happen. So at Get Knowledge, we believe that people are the greatest assets in any organisation. And we want to make that a lived experience for everybody, because we spend so much time at work and things don't need to be the way they are. And just with a little bit of support, things can be better.
Love that. Just about getting clarity, isn't it? Those questions, do you know what I mean? Obviously right above my head, and you know, I'm massively passionate about that, but having a little bit of clarity, asking those a few extra questions for you guys who've got the skill to ask those, but also the people that go, oh yeah, makes perfect sense. Why have I been? Oh yeah, if I change that, love that. So you were doing that in work. So what was the moment then, Lee, where you were like, right, I've done this as an employee. I now want to flip it, and I want to go out and I want to embrace my entrepreneurial spirit and get up on your own path.
Yeah, so I think when I met my business partner, we were both in a consultancy. We were working in Jersey at the time, and we realised that the work we were doing, although we could do it, it didn't float our boats. It wasn't the most exciting of I guess, contracting opportunities. So, and the way that it was being done didn't really align with our values. So over a few pints in an evening, we decided to see whether we could set something up ourselves, because we didn't have the confidence or the balls to do it individually. So we've got safety in numbers. We were both aligned, and that's when it was born. So that was one moment. But then also at a similar time, I had a life-changing event or life-changing thing occur, which was just a catalyst. Like, was an absolute kick up the arse to do things differently. So I think both of those two things came at a very similar time, and that was it was from that moment in 2018, 2019 when we began. So yeah, I mean, I'm more than happy to share the life-changing moment as well, if you want me to.
Yeah, I would. Just before I move on to that, because obviously you've shared a little bit about that, and I'd love more people to hear that, because it's really inspiring, and I really do want you to speak about it. But just going back to that moment? Because obviously there's lots of people who might listen to this or watch this who are in jobs, right? Who think, oh God, I really want to just go and do something. I want to get out there. I want to do it. And I've probably got the same figure that you and your business partner had. If I don't want to do it by myself. So what was that? Obviously, you had the life-changing piece that we'll talk about in the moment. But when you and your pal was in the pub, what was that bit in your head that said, right, go on, I'm gonna jump into it. I'm gonna give it a go.
Yeah, it was. I mean, because there was a couple of things. One of them was like the type of work we had no control over the type of work, so we had to go to where the work was, and like it wasn't enjoyable. The people that we met and the people that we worked with, that was enjoyable, but it was the activity itself wasn't really aligned with our values. We were helping rich people get richer. And we wanted to help people. That's where we got the feeling. That's the thing that motivates, engage, like inspires us. Is to help people. And so there was that. Then there was I've always wanted to be back when I started in 2006. This improvement and leadership coaching stuff. I was working with consultants at the time when I was employed in the public sector, and I saw what they did. I saw the lifestyle that they had. I saw just the flexibility and the opportunity they had to help different people and stuff. So I always had this thing in my head that I wanted to go out and make an impact myself. So I've always had that in my head. But then I also, like the consultants that I was working with, they weren't always the most helpful to me. So like one of them, I remember, took me into a room, and he said to me, he said, if you do want to be a consultant like me and like us, Lee, you've got to smarten your act. You can't wear the clothes that you're wearing. You need to really smarten your act. He said, you've got something about you, but you need to change something as well and really smarten yourself. And that was like a bit of a kick in the teeth, because I was like, I am who I am. I'm comfortable. And then I started to rebel on it. And when I was still in the corporate world, I was working in a large parcel company, and I always remember. So I was like one of the top 50 managers in the business, and we had some like senior leadership days, and like twice a year there'd be an off-site, and then I'd turn up to that, and I'd still be in my jumper and jeans. And everybody else would have dressed up. Everybody else put a suit on. I was like tomorrow, you're not going to wear that suit. You're going to go back to your jumper and jeans or your t-shirt and stuff. Why today? What is it about this? And then I was like, and so I had that story. I had the story from the consultants, and I was like, this isn't me. And I wanted to do it my way. I wanted to do it authentically and be myself. And I wanted to prove everybody else wrong, or prove those doubters wrong as well. So I had all of these things in my head. But then combined with Jason's desire to do things right, the right way as well, and that's where it all came together, and that's where Get Knowledge was formed.
Amazing again, and I know that synergies are unreal, aren't they? Because I was very similar. I was in the corporate world 16 years, and I was working in a non-customer facing role for a number of those, but still had to wear a shirt, tie, suit, every day. And I was like, but I don't feel as comfortable in this. This isn't me. And no, but you've got to wear it. And I thought, so I vowed when I left the corporate world 7 years ago to only wear suits when I win awards. So I haven't had a chance to wear that suit yet. Or just if I am speaking to certain clients or wherever that needs to be, but not day to day. Just be who you want to be. And if the situation arises, you're not stepping into a character. You're just dressing for that appropriateness of that situation and where it is.
Absolutely.
Good point. And that, I suppose that's the one bit that running your own business does bring, is that freedom to decide who you want to be, and people are drawn to you. Because in our business, and I know we'll talk about this a little bit in a moment, it's very difficult for us to sell something that people can't see, right? So we're not selling a garment of clothing, we're not selling a product. Ultimately, we're selling ourselves in what we do. And if you are fake, it's spotted a mile off, right? Authenticity and that clarity about who you are and who you want to be is huge. And just one other question before we move on to the other big happening. So obviously when you and it was Jason, wasn't it? You said was your business partner. When you and Jason did it, either of you ever set up a business before? Ever done anything like that before?
No.
Have you even thought about what that involved when you set it up, or was just we want to make a difference?
No, we just want to make a difference. We'll find our way through it, and think we can do it a different way, and our way. And 8 years on, we're still finding our way, finding our feet and stuff. And it's been one hell of a learning curve, one hell of a journey that we've been on. And we were saying just before we hit record here, I was like, I can talk about the graft, but the glory part is we're not. Success, I think, is defined in ourselves individually, isn't it? And some people would see maybe look at me and think successful. I don't think of myself as successful, but I think that's part of the thing that drives me to deliver more, to be more, to do more. So double down on the graft.
I love that.
Yeah,
because I think the other bit is, and what you said there is really important for people who are listening who are either in the first year of setting a business up or are thinking of doing it or whatever that is. 8 years, still not feeling like it's fully cracked, not being able to fully define what success means for you. So that's a journey that you will go on in starting a business, right? If you think you're going to start a business and within 6 months you go, oh, brilliant, I've cracked it, this is it. In fact, I heard the CEO of NVIDIA on a podcast, apologies, can't remember his name. And obviously that is the richest company in the world, or was for a number of weeks till Elon took back over. But when he was being interviewed, he said he still wakes up every night worried about his business and is it going to survive from where it is. And obviously that has been going decades, is the richest company in the world for some point. And he still has that thought. So for everybody listening, when you have those thoughts, we all have them, embrace them, but make sure it pushes you to keep doing that work, put that graft in to keep moving in the right way, right? I think that's so important. So you're in the pub.
Sorry, Scott. Just one other point on that one is it's felt as well that for the 8 years, it's felt like we've had 8 times 1 year. It's felt like, or maybe seven of the same years. So it's been like that, like a flat. Survived. We've survived. We've got through it. We've got through COVID. We've got through all sorts of different things. But this is the first year that I genuinely feel that this is a step change. So it feels like it's year 2 of the business, not 7 times 1 year. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense, but I feel it's like year 2, but with the learns, because obviously every year is your first year, but with a shitload more learns, right? Do you know what I mean? Loads more mistakes, loads more errors, because as soon as you the way our entrepreneurial brains think, as soon as you move on to that next piece of that evolution, you're already looking back at it, right? I know I can do this better. I've got that. Now I'm going to do it this way. Now I'm going to try it this way. Do you know what I mean? Now I might wear a smaller monkey outfit or whatever that may be, but whatever those learns are, whatever you're coming through. So no, thank you for sharing that. I think it's a really, really important message to just remind everybody that, you probably never feel fully satisfied, right? You know what I mean? Until that moment when you sit back and you reflect back on what you've done, whether if you sell your business, move on to your next business or decide to retire. So you had those moments, you and Jason, you're in the pub, you've decided to go for it, you want to make a difference, you've got Jason to keep you on track, making sure that everything's right and keeping you out of jail. You with the entrepreneurial, amazing brain, thinking about all of these different things you can do, a really good duo, in fact. But then there was still something else that happened in your life that just at that time in that moment in your life just really led into what you were doing and just made everything make more of a difference to you. I'll let you tell.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think just on the point about the duo between me and Jason, we are different individuals and characters. He's far more structured than me, and I am, I guess, more creative in certain ways as well. And I'm a fan of social media and putting myself out there and speaking. And Jason is different. He's more of a fan of the structure thing. So what we've had to do as well is when we started, we both tried to do everything. We both thought we needed to go out on social media and do everything on social media. We both thought we needed. It was like running and it still is at times like running two businesses under the same umbrella. And this is why it feels like year two now. Year one was 7 years long. Year two has just begun. It feels like things are now coming together. We're comfortable in our lanes now. So the way that Jason markets is a different way to the way that I market, but it's both complementary as well. And so that's taken quite a bit of learning about each other as well. So so that was just another learn.
Is that sort of, I suppose, would you say that's a good tip to anybody who's going into a business as a co-founder, is not trying to do everything at the same time and be the same person, really understanding what your strengths are and not fearing going off on slightly separate lanes but coming back together?
Yeah. I think we've got very similar values and vision, but we've got different set of skills. And because we both wanted the business to succeed at the start, it drove us to both do everything. And over time, we found our lanes, and we're still finding more clarity about our lanes as well, roles, responsibilities, and at what point do we hand stuff off, and all of this stuff as well. So I think it is difficult. I am probably Jason's biggest headache. Because of the way that I work, but I know that I could not have a business without him, and that's where it's different. I cause him probably a lot of sleepless nights, whereas he enables me to sleep. I
love that. I think it's such a good bit. Coming up in part 3 when I speak to Jason, we'll hear the opposite.
Yeah.
So again, so thank you for that. I think that was a really good, learning moment. I think there's some really good bits coming out just to give people that clarity, and I suppose just that peace of mind. You're right. Doesn't have to be perfect. So obviously there you were talking, and you and Jason were in the pub. You came up with this idea, but then there was something else that you alluded to earlier on, that that there was a real profound moment in your life that really just doubled down your beliefs and made you really change your outlook. So I'd love you to tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, thank you for the opportunity. It seems weird to call it the best and worst moment in my life. I mean, it was, as a coach, it was the best question and worst question that I've ever asked. So my best mate, Chris, at the age of 39, he passed after his third bout of cancer. And in the leading up to his passing, when medical science, or when the specialists told him that there was nothing else that they could do for him, I was the first person to see him in the room. Straight after that, as the specialist walked out, I walked in, and he was, at that point in time, he was comfortable with the news. He was expecting the news because it was his third bout, and he knew it was getting progressively worse. And so then it was just all about just keeping him comfortable. And our conversation then progressed into death. And he said, do you think I'll know when my time has come? And the nurse in the side of the corner of the room said, some people believe you can, some people don't. And he looked over at me. I can still see his eyes now. He looked over at me and he said, I'll let you know, Lee. I'll let you know. Anyway, so a couple of weeks after that passed, and this is when I asked him the best and worst question. The best question because of the gift it provided, the worst question because I never wanted to ask my mate of 39 years to reflect on his life. And I said to him, in fact, actually, he offered me some money to set up in business because he knew that I wanted a business. And I was like, no, I don't want any money, Chris. I said, that's your kid's trust fund. I said, but what I would love is 3 lessons through your eyes when you reflect on your life, because his perspective on life had changed over the time when he had cancer. I remember one time he was driving around to my house with his 2 lads to watch the Gareth Bale Champions League final, because we all support Liverpool. And at the end of the road, there's a roundabout, and a car cut him up. And he got to my front door, told me that a car cut him up. And I was like, so what did you do? Expecting some extravagant story about him following them to his drive or whatever, to the drive or whatever. And he was like, I didn't do anything. What do you mean he didn't do anything? He went, well, it doesn't matter, does it? The most important thing was coming around to your house to spend time with you and watch the football with the lads. Like, so his perspective on life had changed. He said, like, certain things no longer matter. And that stuck in my head ever since. And since the news about him, nothing else that they could do, it was just about keeping him comfortable. I was wrestling with a question to ask. And one particular day, I asked him to reflect on his life. And he was like, I wish you just asked for the money. That'd be far easier to give you. But I'm so grateful that he thought about these things. Anyway, a few weeks after that passed, and he told me a story. He said, when him and his ex-partner were splitting up, he said he tried to be somebody he thought she wanted him to be, didn't make him happy, didn't make her happy, and they still ended up splitting up. So he said, lesson number one, Lee, is just always be yourself. And there's a lot of gurus and social media stuff out there that talks about authenticity. And we touched on it earlier on in this conversation about suits and stuff like that. But when I think about this, I think about the voice in my head, because I got a tattoo. I've got a few tattoos, but a few years before Chris passed, I got a tattoo, and I got it 2.5 inches down my wrist. And the reason why I got it 2.5 inches down my wrist is because I was telling myself, I was self-conscious about, would people really trust the guy with tattoos and the bald head who talks funny, who used to DJ as a monkey, to seriously help them improve their business? That was my internal chatter in my internal narrative. And so I've become more and more comfortable with who I am, what I do, how I do it. I've got real clarity, and I've got control over my internal chatter as well, and I use it as a positive. So yeah, so always be yourself was lesson number one. A few weeks after that passed, and I went around to see him at his house, and he says, you know what? He said, when you're not working, you come and see me. And Nash, one of our other mates, rings him at 12 o'clock every single day. He says, make good friends, because you never know when you're going to need them or when they're going to need you. And then literally 8 weeks before he passed, he bought some tickets to go to watch the Foo Fighters, and 8 of us went, 4 in one car, Chrissy's ex-partner and 2 boys, and then 4 in another car. And on the way back from that, his youngest asked if it was too late to go to Anfield, we support Liverpool, for a private tour. And then we'd arranged for the following Sunday to go. And it was the most beautiful day. We had ice creams outside. We had as much time as we wanted. We had a private tour with discount in the shops. And on the way back from that, he looked over at me and he said, how many times have we done this? I said, what do you mean? He said, how many times have we done this where I wasn't a burden, didn't have to be wheeled around in a wheelchair? I could have sat in the same seats as you. He said, act now because time's limited. And literally 8 weeks after that, I was working in London. I got a phone call to say that he deteriorated and I needed to come home. I got on the train, jumped in a taxi, got to St. Catherine's Hospice in Preston. And I told everybody that was in the room that I would spend the night with him that night, dabbing his lips during the night and chatting to him and stuff. And then at 10 to 8 in the morning, because my breakfast, my tea and toast was due at 8 o'clock, I went into the bathroom. I said, right, Chris, I'll be back in a sec. Went into the bathroom, had a wash and stuff, and then came out. And in that moment, literally, as soon as I took a step out of the bathroom, I looked over at him, and his chest expanded. And that was it. I believe he chose that moment based on the previous conversation we've had. And in that moment, I made a few phone calls and then went and sat outside. And I thought to myself, you're a fraud, Lee. You tell your kids every morning they can be whatever they want to be, and you're not being what you want to be. And I had Chrissy's three lessons ringing through my ears: always be yourself, make good friends, and time's limit. And so that was a catalyst for it. And literally, like, we'd set the business up, and then it was a bit rocky at the start. I was like processing what had happened and stuff. And then in the February of the following year of 2019, I was driving back home from a contract in South Wales, and I pulled over at the side of the road and started to cry. Like, I had Chrissy's 3 lessons on one side of my head, and I had now like 12 years of improvement leadership coaching on the other side. And in that moment, the reason why I got emotional is like, I kind of like the dots had connected, because when I think about always being yourself, for leaders, for the, like, as leaders, we need to turn up as we are, to bring our best selves to work. But then also we need to create environments where our people can be their best selves and be who they are as well. And then when I think about making good friends, it's all about human relationships. It's all about human connection. And that's the crux of it all. If we turn up and we're always being ourselves, then we can make stronger connections and relationships with our people, our teams, our peers, our suppliers, our clients, and all of that. It's just about human relationship. And then if we've got real clarity on what's important, what the important actions are to take, then we can work on those things, because time is limited. So we need to focus our time on the things that are important. So I'd merged David Brent-esque, like Chrissy's lessons and my 12 years together. And I started to share the story, because I realized it started to resonate with people. And then 4 days before Chrissy's 4th anniversary, I went to a networking event in Blackburn, and I shared Chrissy's story. It was my turn to talk. And this guy I'd never met before, called Frank, came out of the audience, and he said, Lee, I don't know if there's anything in this, but I've written Chrissy's 3 lessons down, and I've circled the first word of each. So always be yourself, make good friends, time's limited, always make time is the first word of the 3. And I thought I was a write-off for the weekend, because that's how we deliver these things. If we always make time to understand ourselves, if we always make time to make good friends and stronger relationships and connections, if we always make time to focus on the important stuff, then we can make amazing things happen. So when I talk about get knowledge here, because people are the greatest asset in any organisation, and here to make it a lived experience. We can make that a lived experience through adoption of Chrissy's 3 lessons, just by asking some questions, enabling spaces for people to share truly what they're thinking, to not just talk about words. I talk about connecting and reflecting, and I think that every meeting in a work organisation, the first 5 minutes we should spend connecting. The last 5 minutes we should spend reflecting, because then we're building stronger relationships up front, and we're reflecting on the things that we need to take away to act upon. So thank you for providing the space for me to share that, Scott.
No, thank you very much. And, I think such a profound life moment to go through that, I haven't got that experience of going through that, especially with someone so close. But I think the fact that you've been able to get, that you've got your friends still with you now every day through the messages, and all of those pieces. And by the way, great messages to pass on to his family as well, right? As you probably shared them with those guys as well. And his boys are going to have some good lessons to follow as well, and they'll turn out into excellent young men, I'm sure, with those lessons ringing in their ears. And I think it is that bit about business, isn't it? Where you had that moment driving in the car that just hit you. And whilst yours came through, I'm sure we're still grieving and still processing all of that and putting us together. Many people who are starting businesses might have not such a profound moment, but a moment where they just have that in their head and they go, oh, that's it. It clicks. I've got this and I've got this, and this is that moment. So when you had that moment in the car and you put them together, because lots of us have moments. Every morning in the shower, I have about 89 million ideas that is going to change the world, right? And then I forget 88.999 million of them when I get out. So what did you do with that? When you had that moment in the car, did you then get home and write it down? Was it just more of an evolution? What was the change to bring it into the business?
Yeah, so it was because of the car journey was 4.5 hours, and it was about 2 hours into the car journey. Like, I didn't listen to the radio. I just thought about it for another 2 hours, crystallized it in my own head. And because what I realized was, and the reason why I started to podcast years ago, is anything that lands in my head, I need to get it out as quick as possible. When Chris passed, I dwelled on a number of things in my head, and the process that helped me through it was writing terrible poetry. It only rhymes in a Chorley accent. And because I needed to process it, I needed to get the things out. And so I'm now got real clarity of actually if something lands in my head, the reason why I post on social media every day, the reason why I have a newsletter, the reason why I had a podcast is because those are things that help me process my thoughts, to help me understand, and then I can do stuff with it. And that's been a learning as well. So what I did with Chrissy's lessons was I thought about them first, and then I got them out of my head, and I was like, okay, well, what does always be yourself mean to me? What does, because Chris had his reasons for those three lessons. I needed to make them overlay my context onto them. So that's what I started to do, and I created courses that brings it all together. I was with a client yesterday, and it was the final session, and the way that I bring the session to a close is by sharing Chrissy's story and going everything that we talk about. Okay, this is about the environment, always being yourself. Like, you were an amazing team. We do that through building connection, all of that stuff. So now it's woven into everything. The lessons are really simple, but the depth of them, I have created something now where they are far deeper than I think Chris ever intended. But they are such an anchor, and they resonate with people at different levels. So yeah, I got it out of my head. I aligned it to what I do, how I do, what I do, and made it relevant with my 12 years of business improvement experience. And then I've just continued to share the story, to learn more, but to practice them myself as well and understand. So I've done a lot of work on like the thoughts in my head and what that creates and all of that stuff. So I'm trying to live them, but also trying to share them. And with that has come just far, far more depth with everything.
Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting, isn't it? It's those bits about, again, as we grow that business and living and breathing what we preach, right? Because that's the other big thing, right? Is lots of people in business, or, you speak to lots of coaches or consultants, and if we go back to your consultant guy earlier, you're not dressing the same, you're not doing this, you're not being an absolute wobber. That's a good on you. But yeah. I think, and I've experienced this. So when I was, managing director and director of a couple of businesses, and we were working with consultants, because you always want to learn, right? You always want to bring other people in. You don't, when you can, and not cheap, right? So these guys weren't cheap at the point. And then I always thought, some of them I thought, you absolutely practice what you preach, and I know you do it. And I know you do because it feels real to me. But a couple of people who I brought in, I thought, I don't know whether you can do that. I really don't. I think you're very good at telling it. I think you may have been able to do it when you had a business 5, 6, 8, 10 years ago. But right now, it feels like you've got into a rhythm of just saying this is what should happen. You're not living and breathing it yourself. You're not following up. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. So I think that's a really, really good lesson for anybody who is, whatever you're doing in business, is no matter whether it's day 1, day 1,000, day 10,000, live and breathe what you say you're going to do and check yourself and make sure that you have got that consistency of you. I think is a really good way of putting that. Stay consistent to who you are and what you're doing and to yourself. I think is a really, really good lesson. So you went through all of those evolutions, Lee. You did that. You created these workshops that are still going today. You said earlier on it was a bit rocky at the beginning. You're in year 1 times 7 at the moment. What was the turning point in getting to work with companies then? Because again, what a lot of people who are starting businesses don't always realise is that even if you've never been a salesperson, as soon as you become a business owner, you have to be a salesperson, right? Because there's nobody sells your business to you or your goods. Websites alone don't sell anything. There's certain things that you've got to do. So what was the turning point for you and Jason in the business where you started to get real traction in what Get Knowledge was offering?
Yeah, great question, because I think we're still getting traction, still getting clarity. And because, like, if I think about the first 12 years of my career doing what I do, I call those the process and performance years. they were about like making a tweak to a process or improving the performance. And then the last 8 years have been the people years. But because it's been the people years, it's far harder to make it tangible. And I was sort of like the people that I left yesterday in the organisation, they said to me, they need to play it back to the board, their learning, their journey, and they said it's really going to be quite difficult to say what impact this is going to have, but it's just been profound and life changing for each person individually. So what we've not done or not done is give them a structure to go follow these 3 or 4 steps, and then you'll fix this problem. I'm just helping people understand who they are, understanding. Or giving them a mechanism to understand who the people that they're working with, and build connection, and then cross the fingers and hope that everything gets better. So we're becoming better at articulating the difference because we've got some case studies to show the difference. We've got but at the start, I was very apologetic in my sales process. I remember, when I'd first created my very first course was called Creating Confident Leaders. And it was a group coaching program. It was dripping in Chris's free lessons. And I'd started to build my network on LinkedIn and things. And I asked people for a conversation and I just said, I'd love to run this past you. I've created this course. And so these were like target people, but they were friendly target people. And I said, I'd love to run it past you. And so I remember one conversation with a lady, a senior role in a large organisation. And I got to the end of it and she went, yeah, no, it sounds really good. It sounds really good. Like we've got a little bit of budget. We could do with something like this if you're up for it. So she was selling me, and I was like, oh, well, I've not run it yet. I'll do it for like, and I was like, just trying to get it over the line in whatever way I could. But like, she was like putting the green light up to go, sell it to me. Yeah. And I was very apologetic, and it just felt inauthentic to sell because I just want to help people. Yeah. And I believed that putting price on it created friction. But now I've realised that actually having a price makes them accountable to delivering the thing. If you're giving something for free, then you're less likely to do it. But having a price and valuing your impact and effort is really important. But at the start, that's why I had to get over myself a little bit. And now I'm far more comfortable now. So this is sales is a process. I help businesses with processes. And the minute I realized that sales was a process, I've kind of gone, okay, I understand what I need to do now. But it's about living Chris's free lessons. So like, I am who I am, making stronger relationships, connections, friendships. But I think, so your first clarity is important. When we started the business, we both believed we could help anybody with anything at any point in time. All they have to do was ask. Yeah. But nobody ever asked because we were far too generic. And in our heads, we were going, well, we don't want to narrow down too much because it will alienate people. But we've had to narrow down so that people are aware of what we're doing and we can articulate it in the right way. So yeah, there's a whole host of sales lessons in what we've gone on.
I think that is. I work with founders right, every day, different points in their journeys, whether people like yourself have been doing 7-8 years and have got a bit of a background behind them and are still learning, to people who've literally just set up in the last 6 months. And there's 2 things that you said there that resonate all of the time. So the first one is, I'll sell to anybody. Yeah. So again, you hear this all the time. So me and you do networking, right? We go to networking groups. And normally in networking groups, you get like 60 seconds to talk about your business. And you should be specific about who you want to speak to. And honestly, right, I go to all these groups. And every time I'm waiting, and they all stand up and go, I'll speak to anybody who needs this. And funnily enough, they never get leads, right? Because nobody knows anybody, but everybody knows everybody. So it's really weird that without being that specific, and having real clarity about who you want to speak to. It'll feel totally alien to anybody and everybody, because when I speak to new business owners, I go, yeah, but if I do that, I won't sell anything and no one will buy it. So I'm doing what you're doing and see how many you sell. I always equate it to a menu. Do you know when you go to a restaurant? And I think this is a really good analogy, right? And I go to a restaurant and I look, and if I go in and the menu's about 4 pages, and they've got Italian dishes, they've got Chinese dishes, they've got French dishes, they've got English, I think the food's going to be crappy. Because how can they have all that food fresh, so it's getting microwaved? And 2, how can they spend the time to cook it? And if I go in and there's a menu and it's really succinct, it's 4 things, or whatever that may be, I go at it. I know this is going to, because I know it's going to be cooked and they've got that. And that's the same thing. I always say to people, try and think of that analogy when you go into a restaurant, you go anywhere. Being all things to everybody never works. Have your niche and go into it. And the other piece is that I think is really, really important, and I want to double down on it. Having that clarity in sales as a process is 100% what everybody needs to think about. It is a boring process and it's not the most rewarding process until you get the sale, but you get 1,000 no's for every yes attention. But if you understand what that journey looks like, you can create that every time, and it becomes so much easier to manage and makes you as the business owner be able to focus on that on whatever time during the day, and then go and do the stuff that you love doing, because you love coaching, you love being in front of people, you love doing that, so you can do that. So I think it's really important that people recognise that and get those foundations down and realise that it is a process. So thank you for sharing both of those, because
yeah, just on that, Scott, as well. Like, I thought the process would be far quicker, but we're never working at our pace either. We're working at the client's pace, because, and that for me has been a big challenge and lesson. Like, you'll start a conversation with somebody, they'll be all over you, and they're like going, yeah, this is exactly what we're after, this is what we need, and then they'll go quiet for 6 weeks, and you're going, like, where have they gone? What have I done? How have I messed this up? They were all over me. And then they'll just pop back up again 6 weeks, go, oh, yeah, sorry, we're just sorting the budget out, or yeah, we just had some internal moves, or whatever. And it takes longer to get through the selling what we sell, to get through the sales process. But then what that's driven in me is I need to be consistent, and consistency has been key. So post every day on LinkedIn, my newsletter once a week on LinkedIn, then my outreach every single day, like at least a couple of people. That's what I need to, if I can maintain that, then I am consistently filling the funnel, and I can absorb the variation of, like, if 3 people don't message me for 6 weeks, it's all right, because I'm messaging another 3. Yeah. And I've just got to be comfortable in that.
Keep collecting that data, right? So everything that you're doing there is going to allow you, like you said there, right? Clarity is a really important word, because you would argue that even after 7 years, you don't have full clarity, which you said earlier. But you've got a hell of a lot more than you had when you started, right? But buying patterns change, people change, economies change. We all know what's going on at the moment, right? So if we'd have looked back 3 months ago, or at the end of the year, you would never have thought we would be in this position. Do you know what I mean? Of where we were at, and who knows, whatever decision is made tomorrow, it'll be different. But if you continue to evolve and collect the data from how long it takes people to make a decision, you may start to see some trends, right? So again, I've sold into education, I've sold into universities, I've sold into schools, I've sold to retail, I've sold to lots of different people. And every buying pattern, you are right, is never on your agenda, right? It's never yours as the seller. It's always on their agenda. And it's always number 1 on yours, right? Because you want to sell. But 9 times out of 10, unless they come to you and say, I need it tomorrow and let's do that deal, then it'll never be number 1 on their priority list. So it's just about having that confidence in what you've offered. And the other bit is having a good follow-up process. Stay in touch with them, even if it is that message on LinkedIn, even if it is that little touch your email at whatever time. Still here, still thinking about you. I appreciate you going through the things. Just let me know. Good to go. And it will keep you in their mind. Don't just give up and wait. And a lot of people do that when they're early in sales. They'll message somebody once and think, oh, they hate me, they've never replied to me. It's not. They're just busy and they've got stuff going on, right? So, yeah, mad. So
absolutely. That's where I feel like the newsletters really helped, because if I'm in a conversation with somebody, I'll just ask them, do they fancy subscribing to this, and I'll add them to it, because then I'm always talking about the things that they're resonating with, because that's just all I talk about, and so I don't have to reach out to each individual person every single time, but maybe they'll all get me newsletter.
And what do you think, just quickly then, what do you think on that consistency? Because, so I've got my scorecard, the NG3 scorecard, and I talk to people about scoring themselves, and it become no surprise to anybody that consistency is normally the lowest scoring section, no matter where you're at, right? Clarity, low scoring when you're starting off, but consistency continues to be the biggest challenge. So newsletter and LinkedIn, is there a tip that you can share with me or with anybody about what you do to make sure you stay consistent on that newsletter and LinkedIn?
So since September, I have been consistent. And since September, I have won the award. I have started more conversations than I've ever started, and been in more conversations. I have had more speaking engagements. I have had more glory since September after being consistent. Before September of last year, it was very erratic. I'd do a newsletter, and then maybe 3 weeks later, I've not done a newsletter. I'll do a newsletter, or I'll post on a Monday, forget about it on a Tuesday, do it on a Thursday. And I thought that was good enough. But it wasn't good enough. And I've now got the data to show that actually consistency about message, about frequency, has made the difference. So that's the thing now. So if you think about the habit loop, I was talking about the habit loop in the session. So habit loop is cue, routine, reward. The cue is the thing that triggers the activity. The routine is the activity, and the reward is the feeling that you get after it. Then if you do that enough, then it becomes habitual, automatic, and then it just continues. So when I think about this, before, I wasn't getting the rewards. I might have had a thing in my calendar that said do newsletter, so I had the cue. I knew what to do in the routine, but I wasn't feeling the rewards. So I wasn't getting the conversations or the messages back for it. But now I've started to get that because of the consistency. It's fueling the habit loop now. So that for me is the thing. If you're not consistent, you'll not see the results. Start being consistent, and then understand the results that you're getting from it, and then that'll fuel itself.
It fuels you, right? Because I suppose the habit loop, which is a really good lesson, comes back to the controls in the NG3, right? Is having those controls and making sure that you're in control of your business. It doesn't control you of what you were doing and where it goes. And obviously success then breeds success, right? Because when you get that buzz and you do it, you want to keep doing it, and you're seeing it. And that's no surprise. I'm just going to bring this back to what you said at the very start, when we were talking about Get Knowledge in its growth. You were saying that this year you feel has been the real step change year. You've had flat and your step change. And I would like to think that if I equate that back to what you've just said now, around I'm getting the consistency, I'm now seeing the step change.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a business in its second year now. But it is because we have got the clarity, I've got the controls in place, and I am being blooming consistent with it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, I think that's brilliant. So if anybody wants to know any more about Get Knowledge or the podcast, where can they find that out, Lee? Just so people know.
Yeah, so LinkedIn is the place where I am more often than not. So just Lee Houghton, HOUGH2N, and Get Knowledge is there. But yeah, LinkedIn is the place. Just drop us a message, and always open to making new friends.
Amazing. So I'm going to hold you down to something now. Are you ready? So you said you're relaunching and getting the podcast going again. Is that right?
Yeah.
Brilliant. When's that happening?
Yeah. So I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday about this, because this is a typical thing. So the person that I was having this conversation with, and And when I was telling them, they went, "Oh, blooming heck, you sound like me." Like, so I was sounding like them, like just putting stuff off, coming up with excuses and things like that. So by the end of May, I want to have advertised to put the podcast going live. So that's what I want to do.
So everybody who's listening to this who thinks, "Oh God, I like a bit about what Lee's saying," do you know what I mean? And you want to listen to more of his profound thoughts that he has every morning, needs to get out of his head and to share with everybody and to have those interviews, get it in your diaries. Last week of May, you'll start seeing the advertisements on his LinkedIn because you'll be following him then and all of those great things. But honestly, mate, I knew it would be. Thanks a lot for coming on. You know, I'm starting this off myself, and we're trying to get it going, and hopefully people have heard some really good bits. And as always, as I knew it would be, some really, really good lessons. So thanks a lot for your time, brother, and best of luck with year 2.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Scott. Keep doing what you're doing and keep being you.
Nice one, brother.
Take care.
And that's it for another episode of No Graft, No Glory. Thank you so much for today's guests for coming on and sharing their real story behind the graft, not just that polished version. I need you to do me a favour, please. If you like the podcast, please subscribe to the channel, like it, share it, comment, all of those great things that by now everybody should know what to do and what all of us doing podcasts ask for. But more importantly, what I'd love you to do is, if you know somebody who this podcast might resonate with, might really help them, might realise they're not alone, putting the graft behind the glory, please share it with them. I would love you to do that. You can follow No Graft, No Glory on LinkedIn, YouTube, and all of the usual podcast pieces. And if you're setting up your own business or any of this resonated with you and you think you could benefit from a bit more clarity, control, and consistency, please come find me, reach out. I'll be in all the usual places. But until next time, keep grafting, because without it, there's no glory.